What's up, everybody? It's Dan back with you today on the MDX. This morning I've gone to the MTO and done the registration, got the taxes paid, all of that kind of good stuff. I wanted to go over a little bit of how this works. Specifically this guy here, this is the used vehicle information package. I want to talk to you a little bit in depth about that because there's some really important stuff on there. Basically what the used vehicle information package is a tool designed by the government of Ontario to basically make buying a car a little bit more transparent for the buyer. It kind of prevents sellers from hiding information or trying to mislead buyers. Basically, the way this is supposed to work is when you plan on selling a vehicle, you go to the MTO and you pick one of these up and you keep this with you until the vehicle is sold. That way that you can show anyone who's interested in buying the car all of this information, and it helps with the make their decision. So if you're ever buying a car, whether you're planning to keep it or eventually sell it, you want to try and see this before money ever changes hands. I mean, in reality, most cars that are bought privately, you're not going to see this until you're at the MTO and they make you buy it. You know, this has to be purchased as part of a transfer. Like I say, if everything works the way it should, you should already have it. But in reality, most of the time, as the buyer, you're going to shell out the 20 bucks for this and get it while you're standing at the desk at the MTO. It is important to see this because there's a lot of good information on here. The first thing you're going to see, section 1, is vehicle details, and that's going to be all the stuff related to the car. Make sure that your VIN matches. The bottom line there is brand. And so what a brand is basically the vehicle's history in terms of repair and rebuild. So if you notice that you have anything on there other than none, I don't know the full gamut of what those can say, but I know the things that you want to avoid. I don't know if salvage is used, if the word salvage is used. I should actually look up the proper terminology on that, but you're looking for basically like it's either going to be like unfit for the road, needs repair. Like I say, I'll try and look these up for everybody. But the other thing that you're going to see is potentially rebuild title. And so if you're seeing a rebuild title, what that means is that at some point in the vehicle's history, it was in some sort of accident, probably significant enough to have airbags deploy. Usually structural damages, something that the car would have had to go back to a shop and get a structural safety to be branded as roadworthy again. Some people are okay with a rebuild title, other people aren't. If you're buying a car to flip, I would probably avoid rebuild titles because they tend to freak people out. Ideally, what you're going to see here is none. This car has likely not been in any significant accident to the point where it's had structural damage or anything like that. Down here in the bottom left is where you would see the number that indicates the wholesale value of the car according to the government of Ontario. This car here is not in the database. So what happens with this is if the car is older than 15 years old, they're going to take you at the bill of sale amount. If the car is newer than 15 years old, you're going to have an Ontario certified appraiser evaluate the car and get a number from them, take that back to the MTO, and that's the number that you're going to pay tax on. This being a 16-year-old vehicle, this is a 2004. I've only paid the tax on the bill of sale amount. I didn't have a bill of sale, so basically they'll just ask you what you paid for it. I paid $500 for this, and so they're going to tax you on that right there, which is $65 for this vehicle. And this is kind of lucky. It's kind of a roll of the dice whether or not you're going to have this number here or not. If this number's here, you're going to pay tax on whatever this number happened to be. So on the next page of this document is going to be the history of the previous owners. I don't know if this information will transfer province to province or not. I've never seen one from out of town, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. This one's lived its whole life in Ontario, so you can see starting about here, on this date was the initial sale. This vehicle's lived in Thunder Bay its entire life, it looks like. This appears to have been traded into Balmoral Park Acura in town here at about that kilometer mark. It was then sold from that person. That would have been the person who bought it from Balmoral Park, and then it was sold to the person that I bought it from. This is something to keep an eye out. So you can see here, these kilometer values are probably based on guesses. You can see right here, 240,000 kilometers was definitely a guess, as that's about 20 shy of the previous sale. So this would have been, whoever bought this car most recently, the person I bought it from, would have just guessed at this amount. Obviously, for the quality of the records, they want you to be as accurate as you can with the kilometer numbers. The other thing that we have going on at the bottom here is our lien information. This is very important to keep an eye on. Obviously, you're going to avoid buying vehicles with liens on them. Basically that's if any banks have interest in the vehicle. If it's been used as collateral, or if there's any payments owing on the vehicle, it'll show a lien here in this box. This is a very powerful part of this document. This is something that, sellers are not always honest about this. Sometimes they don't even know if there's liens on their cars. Definitely want to check this out before any money changes hands. So on the last page of this document, this is something that's actually kind of neat, is a pre-made, pre-written bill of sale. And so a lot of people, when you're buying cars, at the time that it's sold, they'll write up their own bill of sale or type up their own. Something that you don't actually need to do. If you go ahead of time and you grab this, when you find a buyer, you put in yours and their information in here, and then you have a ready-made bill of sale. I feel like this is something that people don't really know exists. It's way more convenient. If people knew about this, they'd probably use it a lot more. Alrighty, so now that I know I'm not going to have any liens or anything weird with this thing, it's time to start working on it. So I'm going to start jacking up the front end. I'm probably going to start with the struts. I always throw a block under here. My driveway's a little bit slopey, so you want to throw a block under there too. You always want to set your parking brake as well. This is one thing I found a bit mind-blowing. Automatic car with 265,000 kilometers. You would never expect the e-brake to be working, but wouldn't you know, thing works perfect. The guy who towed it to my house was pulling it onto the flatbed, and we could hear the wheels squeaking, and we said, oh, I hope this thing doesn't have like a seized caliper or something. And so I run in here, and sure enough, the parking brake's on. Awesome. Probably a pretty good sign that this vehicle was at least somewhat taken care of throughout its life. It's funny, before I got the used vehicle information package, I kind of expected this car to be a Southern Ontario car based on the mileage and condition, but according to the owner history, it's lived its entire life in Thunder Bay. It's more signs that this vehicle was cared for. The fact that you can have, north of 250,000 kilometers on a car that has very, very little rust on it. Clearly the first owner that drove it the bulk of those kilometers cared for it and took care to wash and maintain it. Something else really cool about this vehicle that I just noticed is that it has an auto dimming rearview mirror. Kind of an interesting option for a 2004. These things are the cat's ass. This kind of a thing is another reason to appreciate the Acuras. I think these are still considered a premium feature even by today's standards. Obviously, at some point, this car is going to be cleaned very thoroughly, but I always take a moment when I get them home to kind of go through and just check in all the compartments under all the seats, make sure nothing's been left or forgotten by the previous owner. You have an opportunity to maybe return some stuff if you find valuables, or, if you find some money, you get a little bonus money, which is cool. The only thing, this car's been cleaned out pretty good. The only thing I really found in here was a nice snack. Something else to note that's specific to these Acuras is you'll see here on the back of the fuel door, premium unleaded fuel only. That's kind of a hallmark of premium vehicles. People familiar with Acuras will be aware of that, and they'll be understanding, but somebody who maybe has never owned an Acura before, that's something you want to explain to them when they're looking at the car, as it might affect how much they want the vehicle. Most people probably don't care, but some might. Real quick, got a pro tip for you. I said I was going to try and charge up this battery, see if I can put some life back in this. This was in the car when I bought it. It's completely dead. I purchased this smart charger recently, and the problem with smart chargers is you can see this thing's on and it's hooked up, but this thing doesn't care about this battery because it's super dead. So if you have a battery that's super, super dead on a smart charger, what you can do is, I have my jumper cables here. You can take this, clip this on here, and then all of a sudden, hey, you're a battery. I know what you look like. Hit the charge there. This thing starts charging. Yeah, good. So we're going to let this thing bake for a little bit and see what happens. Eventually, you will want to get to the point where you're pulling this one off. This is a charged battery. We're going to see what happens. Well, you're taking a significant hit in amps. But now you can see that battery's got enough voltage in it where this thing is like, yeah, I'm cool with you. And so we get some charging happening. Science. So a few minutes later, I've taken my little jumper cable rig off. This thing has stepped up. It's still climbing in amps. These guys are best friends now. We are ripping. Alrighty, so a little later in the day now. Got this thing up on stands a little earlier. Got both the wheels pulled off before I had to go and do some other stuff. You can see here, these brakes, although a little rusty, are actually in quite good shape. There's no lip on the edge of these. We have quite a bit of pad in there. I suspect these brakes were done relatively recently. I haven't looked at the rears yet, but I'm expecting similar. Good news for me is it's one less thing to have to buy. Very often when you're pricing out a flip, you almost want to assume that it's going to need brakes, just because shops so readily call them now. So as I say, my plan is to replace the struts first. I've noticed that these links, these sway bar links here, appear to be in good condition. A little crusty on on the nut here, but if I can save these doing the struts, I'm going to try my best to. I may end up damaging these and having to replace them anyway. I'm not too worried about it. I have plenty of time to do another Rock Auto order, and they'll be quite cheap. This is also a good opportunity for me to sneak the camera in here and actually show you the carnage going on with the AC compressor. So you can see there, that thing's seized. Obviously the tension on the belt caused that ring to bust right off. It just happened to be resting down there. All of this fluid that you can see is power steering fluid. Like I say, it appears to have damaged that line when the ring came off. Just stopping in quickly on the other side. You can see here that all of these bushings are in pretty good shape. Sway bar bushings are nice. Whole thing's a little bit crusty, but very solid. All of the CV boots are in good shape. That's important. Everything's looking pretty good. Going to be tearing into this thing in a little bit. Planning on trying to get myself a little tripod. Hopefully go hands-free, start doing some time lapses, some cool stuff like that for everybody. I'll check in when the struts are out and we're taking them apart. Been a few hours since I put this battery on charge. You can see this has calmed down to a reasonable trickle. I'm going to leave this on tonight. We'll see when it shuts off. Probably shut off sometime this evening. And hopefully tomorrow I got a fully charged battery and that one can go right back to Walmart. I also thought I'd address my hair. I've been editing these videos looking at my hair, just shaking my head. I don't know why it shoots out the one direction like that. This side seems to lay down. It's the greatest mystery of our time. So I wanted to say thanks for watching. It's really, really weird to film yourself, getting used to it slowly, but definitely appreciate the positive comments. Glad everyone's enjoying it. I'm going to carry on making videos. I'm pumping these out pretty fast because I have a lot to cover right now. Obviously working a full-time job. This isn't going to be, I'm not going to be uploading this regularly. I plan on trying for at least a video a week. We'll see how it goes. If I have more, we'll do more. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.